Hello everyone, what's up? In this airbrush and weathering tutorial, which is my third and final Cerastus Knight Lancer video, I'm going to show you first of all how to paint white armor very easily and quickly using your airbrush. And secondly, I'll show you how to apply weathering to white armor using oil paints. So are you looking for the easiest way to paint white armor? Or maybe you just want to know how to use oils on white armor? Either way, this video is for you. This is Mr. Color C1 Gloss White, which is my new favorite white paint. I applied it thin to 50% with Mr. Color Leveling Thinner at a pressure of around 22 psi. If you've ever sprayed any white paint through the airbrush, you will quickly notice several things. First, that as I usually do, I'm still going very gentle on the trigger, which with any other white paint would be synonymous with one thing: dry tip. Secondly, that this white is super transparent. You can definitely still see the pattern underneath still during my second pass. Third, you will notice that I'm spraying almost continuously, which kind of goes against what everyone tells you to do when spraying white, right? This combined with low trigger pressure is the recipe for disaster in terms of getting dry tip or even clogging of your airbrush. Well, I can tell you that I honestly did not even clean the tip once in between passes. If you've seen some of my earlier videos, you will know that when it comes to white, I always swore by either AK Real Colors Flat White or Tamiya XF1. Both have served me well, but this Mr. Color Lacquer White is something else entirely. First of all, it's important to understand that all of these spraying characteristics that I'm talking about are a matter of degrees, not absolutes, okay? Think of it as a sliding scale. In terms of ease of use and dry tip resistance, so to speak, Tamiya Flat White would be on a 7 out of 10, AK Flat White on an 8, and this would be on a 10 out of 10. The difference between this and a really good water-based white, like say from Vallejo Model Air, is huge. The other aspect where it differs from my usual candidates is the finish, of course. This is gloss white, not flat. Now I've tried to showcase this beautiful, silky smooth finish on camera, but the fact that it's highly reflective makes it damn hard. I hope that you get the idea though. Here you can see a banner, for example, before decals or weathering. Check out that finish. It's a super smooth, gloss white finish that reminds you of car paint, doesn't it? As you will see later, it's almost as hard as car paint as well. Okay, so here are the white armor panels with the decals applied and weathered, the gold trim painted, and a failed attempt at chipping the white paint. More on that later, and without any varnish applied yet. The first step is going to be an oil wash with scale 75 Darkstains, which you have seen me use multiple times in earlier videos. The plan here was to apply both to the gold trim itself and to the edges between that and the white panel. Since I wanted both the white and the gold to be stained in this case, I deliberately did not apply any extra varnish, which meant that a clean, very targeted pin wash, like I almost always apply, would not really be possible here given the lack of capillary action. Therefore, I just relaxed, enjoyed the ride, and hoped that I would reach a good compromise between recessed shading and clean white areas in the middle of the panels, once that I started blending everything. As you can see, the wash was still very easy to apply. Would it be easy also to blend and clean up? We will see. Armed with a small flat brush, slightly dampened with Odorless thinner, I first started to blend the oil wash by pushing the oil paint against the edges of the panels. It had been a long time since I tried this without any varnish, so even if it was a glossy paint, I was a bit unsure as to the results. As you can see though, this super tough white paint did not suffer in any way from this treatment. I kept going, now with more confidence, and I was beginning to like the look of things. Here you can see me drag the oils downward, which is another possibility. At this stage, I admired the staining that was beginning to emerge. This diffuse, soft shading around the detail is exactly what I had in mind. Doing this with the airbrush would have been far more difficult for me. By the way, if you're wondering about the red staining around that sword decal, that was intentional also, and achieved through sanding the decal itself. In other words, what I like to call mechanical weathering. But I digress, back to the blending process. In some areas I followed up with a makeup sponge, in order to make sure that the centers of the panels were still relatively clean. As you can see, they did pick up some excess wash. Mission accomplished. Time for some streaking effects, also with oils. If you've seen my ATST video, then this will be very familiar. As you can see, I'm applying the oil directly with its applicator brush and then dragging it downwards with a dry saw brush. However, this didn't work well without any varnish, which I should have known. When I was done, I picked up a Filbert brush with a bit of enamel thinner, and I started to essentially reshape the crappy little streaks that I had initially applied. No harm, no foul though. This was much easier and far more satisfying, and in any case I always play around with my streaks for a while until I'm happy with the result. So just consider this part of the learning process. Next I checked my work and decided to give the panel a second round of Starship based sludge. Quite a mouthful, isn't it? The idea was not to undo all the previous work, but mostly to enhance existing streaks, making them more pronounced. After some fiddling back and forth, I was finally happy with the results. So, what are my conclusions from this project? Well, first of all, the Cerastus Knight had its debut on the gaming table the other day at a 2500 point game, and I must say its presence on the battlefield is really impressive. My second conclusion is more specific to this video. This is really the best white airbrush paint I've ever used, but it does have one kind of paradoxical flaw, we could say. It does not work with chipping fluid. All my attempts to get this to chip proved useless. Even though I applied a lot of chipping fluid, I only let it dry for an hour, and I used a lot of water and a lot of friction. Regardless of all of that, it was basically impossible to get it to chip. In fact, it was very hard to sand it or to make incisions into it. Why? Well, essentially, this paint is so hard that it's pretty much like car paint. For a wargaming model, though, that has significant advantages. You will not have to worry about the paint being damaged, even if your models are regularly handled by kids, as mine are. Spilled soda? Not a problem either. However, that was kind of limiting for me, as I do prefer chipping fluid for white paint, particularly to get some staining as a byproduct. For example, I've been thinking about doing a World Eater's Spartan tank, but now I'm no longer sure whether I will use this paint, as my weathering concept for the Spartan was kind of dependent on using chipping fluid. In any case though, if you have the gear to spray lacquers, I think you must give this paint a try. The beautiful spraying experience alone is more than reason enough to add it to your quiver, and if you prefer sponge or liquid mask chipping, the aforementioned flaw should be irrelevant for you. More importantly, I hope that you've enjoyed this last Cerastus Knight Lancer video. Before I let you go, I would like to thank all of my YouTube members. Your patient and generous support means a great deal to me and allows me to keep the lights on. That is all for now from me, folks, but remember, keep it up and weather it out.